back in the garage, back in the garage, back in the garage today, back in the garage today. What's up guys, back in the garage today because we've got some work to do because this guy right here has been awfully hard on his dirt bikes lately. So we're not only gonna make some upgrades to the bikes, we also have to fix some stuff on the bikes. But before we can do any of that, both the 65 and the 50 need a major cleanup, so these two are gonna get some baths before we even touch these things. And then after I wash them, Noah gets the fun job of drying them off. So we'll get these dried off. We're probably gonna grab a little bit of lunch and then we're gonna come back out and get to work. All right, we're gonna start out on the 65. One of our first things we need to do is replace this clutch lever because as you can see, someone broke it during the last race. Didn't you? Unfortunately, when I bought this bike, the guy I bought it from gave us a bunch of spare parts, so we have this KTM power part piece we're going to put on here, orange anodized, looks pretty trick. Let's get it bolted up. We got it installed on here, but I don't really like the way this thing's working, so I just called Ride on Moto, and we're going to get one of the regular factory ones for this bike, but in the meantime, you know, this weekend or whatever, we'll use this till it comes in. Alright, so you can see I already took this little flag mount off of this side here. We're going to take it off this side too to try to keep from breaking clutch levers in the future or brake levers or whatever. We're going to do full wraparounds on the bike. In order to put the bar ends on, we got to get the grips off because I got to pop the end caps off. You can see we took the throttle grip off over here. Now I have ODI grips, which means they lock on, and this thing is being a monster to get off. So I'm going to pop the end cap off this side. We'll work on this side first. Alright, so you can see we took a Dremel tool and dremeled that out, so now it's got an open end, so now we can slide this back over the handlebar. We've got the Enduro engineering wraparounds, and obviously I bought these at Ride on Moto. Alright, so on this grip I was able to take, I didn't actually have to take it all the way off. These are the lock-on style grips. I just got it off just enough that I could take the Dremel tool, Dremel it out, and you can see we've got the Enduro engineering wraparounds and the Enduro engineering flags installed on the 65. Now we're going to pop the exhaust off and check the O-rings down on the header and see how they look. If they're in good shape, we'll just put a little grease around them and pop the exhaust back on. So we got most of what we wanted to get done last night on the 65 over there, but then this guy wanted to go watch Incredibles too, so we did that. Now we're back out in the garage this morning. We're going to work on the 50. About the only thing we have left to do to the 65 is adjust the chain. Probably need to do it on this bike too, but let's get that 50 over here and get some work done to it. Sound good?
Yep.
So while you can tell the graphics are kind of jacked up, and these were brand new for the season, I also have this duct tape back together because somebody had a heck of a crash. Why don't we cut over to that real quick and we'll show you what happened. Now also in that crash, he bent up the shift lever even though it was a fold-in. Now this is a different one. Fortunately I had a spare and got that put on. So we are going to replace all the plastic today. We also have a new throttle assembly we're going to put on, new grips. And we also have a new throttle cable because this one's starting to get worn. We're going to check the chain, we're going to clean the air filter, we'll probably change the oil on it, and we'll just do an overall inspection of the bike because we've got a race coming up in about 2 weeks. And this thing will be back out on the track. So in these Honda CRF50s, basically all the body work is connected to the seat, and there's not much that holds it onto the bike. You've got a screw up here on each side of the fuel tank, and then you've got two back here underneath the rear fender where you got a couple of bolts. And then this whole thing comes off, and then we've got to take a bunch of fasteners off the seat, and obviously the front fender's separate, so we're gonna get to work on this. In addition to those 4 bolts I named off, you also have 2 plastic fasteners, one on each side of the fuel tank. Just be sure to pop those off, and this whole thing's going to come off in just a second. With all the fasteners undone, this thing should pop right off of there. Then we just got to take all these fasteners off and get the new bodywork put on. But I think first we're going to clean all of this crap up because it looks nasty as hell. Alright, that's looking a good bit better. Now it's time to Get the plastic off the seat, and then we've got a new bag of plastic right there. Got all the plastic removed. Now we need to clean up the underside of this seat and get the new plastic put on. Now, in case you're wondering why we decided to buy all new plastic, it's like $30 for an entire new set, and since that one was busted up, it just made sense to replace it all at once. Now, this is not factory Honda plastic. This is Chinese eBay special, but it's the same stuff we were running on it, and it held up pretty good for a race season and a half. And for the price, it's tough to beat. Now, I will say, the fit and finish, it's going to take you a little bit of time if you switch over to this, because the holes aren't perfect, but they're pretty damn close. Alright, so we got all the new bodywork assembled, but since we've got some work to do over here on the engine, with the we're gonna have to pull the carburetor off and then run down the new throttle cable and stuff like that. We're just gonna leave it off for right now and put it back on in a few minutes. We did have to drill a hole in the front fender, mainly because we have this steering dampener put on the front, but aside from that, that bad boy bolted right up. Alright, so as you can see, we've just taken the carburetor off the bike. I've got it right here. We're gonna clean it up a little bit. It really doesn't look too bad, and then we're gonna get this throttle cable replaced. While we've got it off the bike, we decided to go ahead and pull the bowl. I mean, this thing looks clean enough to eat out of. Obviously, you don't want to because there's gasoline residue. Same thing over here, float, everything looks great. We're gonna pop that back together. You can see right here, part of the reason we want to put a new throttle cable on, this one's gotten a kink in it. Now for the last race, I just put some duct tape around it to keep it sealed. But it's time for a new one, so we're gonna come up here. We're actually gonna replace this entire assembly, because you can see I've snapped it once before, and it's got JB weld on it. So we're gonna take a couple of bolts off, slide the tube off, and then get the new assembly and the new cable ran through the bike, and then get the carburetor back on. Just two quick bolts on the throttle assembly. You can see we get the entire thing off. We're replacing the grips, the tube, the assembly, the cable, so we're not going to reuse any of that stuff. While we were off camera, we went ahead and pulled the 50, the 100, and the 65 air filters, and those things have just been cleaned. We're just letting them dry out. We'll get them re-oiled and put back in the three respective bikes here in a little while. So here's a side-by-side comparison. The one on the left is the old assembly. The one on the right is the new one from Motion Pro. Even though I bought that kit from Pro Taper, I'm pretty sure they were using a Motion Pro assembly, so everything should match up just fine. Now, before we even put this cable on the bike, we're going to go ahead and lube it up. I'm using the Motion Pro cable lube tool. I swear this video is not sponsored by Motion Pro. I just really like their stuff. We're going to spray some lubricant on it, make sure everything is good and working smoothly before we bother to put this on the bike. Alright, so we got the carburetor back on, we got the new throttle cable ran up, we got the new assembly on. Get some nice action on that. We are going to need, obviously, some grips. Went ahead and put a new spark plug in while we were at it. Alright, so the way I like to do this is I take a little bit of parts cleaner, brake cleaner, spray that on the inside. That lubricates it, but then this stuff dries really quick. And as you can see on this handlebar, you've got some serration that's going to hold it on. And then basically we're just going to slide the grip on, make sure you get the orientation the way you want it. And I kind of like to slide it on from the back to the front to push the air out through, and then I'll show you what we're going to do after that. There you go, just like that. Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Now we're going to do the same thing on the throttle side. I should have said the grip with the larger opening is obviously for the throttle tube. The grip with the smaller opening goes on the left handlebar. There you go. So while I have installed them and just kept them on like this before, for racing purposes, it just makes more sense to safety wire them on, so that's what we're going to do next. It just ensures a much tighter grip and less chance of slippage. Alright, so what you're going to do is cut off a piece of safety wire. Some grips will have them pre-designated areas to put it, these don't, so we're just going to pick a spot. I like to start on the outside, work my way in. That forces any air out that may be in there. So we're going to wrap it around once, and we're going to keep this wrap tight and wrap it around again. Easier said than done sometimes. Now that we've got it about where we want it, we're just going to go ahead and twist it a couple of times down here to help hold it in place until we get our safety wire pliers on it. So I'm going to take the time to go ahead and keep those two strands pretty close together. We grab our safety wire pliers. Alright, so with the pliers locked on, make sure your wire up here is pretty close together. and start twisting it in. Once you've got it pretty good there, you can unlock these, and then we're just going to cut it off. And then the last step is you'll have this little tab sticking out down here. You just want to bend this back into the grip, that way it doesn't dig into the rider's hand or glove. Alright, so we got the throttle side on too. There's actually a little channel up here on both sides. We're able to tuck it in, so we just have 2 pieces of safety wire on each side, but that throttle action is so much better. What do you think?
It really is.
Alright, so we got everything totally done on the 50, except we're waiting on some decals and some number plates to come in, but let's hear it, dude. Alright, so we got the chain adjusted on the 65. Basically everything's ready to go. We've got one more race until like, I don't know, about a month-long break on the dirt bikes. I know it's a little bit different type of back in the garage video today. I just kind of shared some tips and some behind the scenes of what we have to do on the dirt bikes. But just the same, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, this is the place to be. If you have any questions about what we're working on or about what classes he's racing and stuff like that, let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.